Do you hate your government? Do you think that they waste all your money and fight all these wars for no reason? Are you feeling like you can't really do anything about it? Well, that's where you're wrong. There's this little thing called eco-terrorism, and in today's video we will, Mr. Stick, as your lawyer, I'd have to advise against incitement of, let's call it, antisocial behaviour. Well, isn't there a way we could legally get around it though? Well, you could claim it was a guide on what not to do and how to avoid being an eco-terrorist. Sounds like it could work, but do we have any backup plans though if it isn't enough? We could put homeless Norm in a jail and he can break you out if they ever put you in. Man, I love crack. Man, I love crack. Alright, cool. Now that this is a video on what not to do and how to avoid being an eco-terrorist, we can get into the fun stuff. Now, what is eco-terrorism? Just so you know what to avoid. Eco-terrorism is the act of destruction or the threat of destruction of the environment by states, groups or individuals in order to intimidate or to coerce governments or civilians. Now, intimidating governments is something that we would never want to do, am I right guys? So just to make sure that none of you accidentally do this, I'll be going into specific examples and what you shouldn't do if you want to avoid being an eco-terrorist. Our first technique that you should avoid if you don't want to cause untold damage is the planting and spreading of a species of tree called the Tree of Heaven. The Tree of Heaven is an invasive species of tree from China and grows like a virus. There are no diseases or insects in the USA that can affect the tree, allowing it to outcompete all other trees and killing off any natural species. Not only that, its flowers smell like cat piss and they sprout a lot of them. So just imagine how quickly you can terraform a nice park into a forest that smells like the crematorium after a cat lady dies. It also releases toxic compounds into the soil, further killing off any normal flora. Not only that, but its root systems can quickly grow into pavements, building foundations, and get this, sewers. So it can make it also smell like shit in your city if that's the desired effect. The tree is also the perfect habitat for the spotted lanternfly, which is another invasive insect that is also from China. I'm starting to think that this Tree of Heaven is literally just a CCP agent sent to undermine the West. Plus 1 million social credit score for the tree, very nice. The lanternflies also damage and destroy native trees, so this 2-hit combo is pretty effective at ruining your local ecosystems, which is something that we definitely don't want to do. Here's a link that you would need to avoid as it tells you how to plant these trees and the ideal conditions for their growth. It says here that they can grow in very poor soil and highly polluted areas, meaning that they can grow basically anywhere. Something that I'm sure we will all make sure to note as to not accidentally plant these trees. Our next eco-terrorism technique that you should avoid is the causing of algal blooms by the pouring of fertilizers into ponds. What this does essentially is flood the ecosystem with nitrates, and these nitrates are then used by phytoplankton and cyanobacteria to rapidly reproduce. These organisms have 2 stages that they can be in, which are 1. A benthic resting stage, which is where they are just chilling at the bottom of the pond, waiting for the ideal nutrient conditions, cough cough, waiting for us to not pour fertilizer into the pond. And the 2nd stage, the pelagic vegetative state, where they float to the surface and begin to grow and multiply. As the cyanobacteria multiply rapidly, they form a thick layer of algae and take up a lot of the oxygen that is dissolved in the pond water. This wouldn't be an issue normally because plants in the pond's water usually are able to photosynthesize and replenish the oxygen in the pond. But, as you can see from the diagram, there's a big patch of green blocking the sun. This causes the plants to start dying off, and then basically anything that needs oxygen to survive either leaves or suffers the same fate. But wait, there's more. When the algal bloom starts to die off, the saprophytes that break down the algae also use up most of the remaining oxygen during their breakdown process, leaving you with an oxygen depleted dead zone that can't sustain any life. And all it really takes to semi-permanently destroy an ecosystem forever is bags of fertilizer and about 5 minutes. Now you definitely shouldn't read this PDF on how to initiate an algal bloom with step-by-step instructions and a formula to calculate the exact amount needed to cause critical bloom conditions. Alright, off topic, but the imperial system is so ass. Just look at these conversions, dog. I was going to write an example into the script about how much fertilizer to use and the costs associated for an average pond, but just looking at this pissed me off. None of the units convert cleanly. 1000 cubic centimeters can hold a volume of 1 liter of water, which is exactly 1 kilogram. 1000 cubic inches is 4.329 US gallons, which weighs 36.056 pounds. And it gets even worse if you want to calculate energy required to heat liquids or anything else that's useful. I mean, it's so bad that it caused one of NASA's Mars orbiters to burn up due to incorrect conversion between metric and imperial units in calculations. Anyways, back to algal blooms. The Ohio River. If any of you comment Skibbity Ohio, you're getting excommunicated, by the way. The Ohio River had an algal bloom that stretched over 650 miles, and the entire river was tested positive for toxins and caused drinking water issues. So these algal blooms are nothing to scoff at. That's why you should 100% never initiate one with the knowledge I've just given you. Our final technique is one that is actually legal to do, so it gets the Stoic 6 seal of approval. Unlike the last two, it actually promotes animal welfare while simultaneously allowing you to achieve your goals. It involves bats and the protected status that they carry in both the UK and the US. Unfortunately, this technique only works in the US though, because of a little thing they have called homeowners associations. What you want to do firstly is find a nice house in a nice area which has an active HOA group, preferably with a large boomer community. You'll need to buy the property or at least have a mortgage so that you're now a part of this community. Next, you want to build as many bat boxes on your property as you can and try to encourage as many bats to populate those bat boxes as you can. So now you have a dozen or so bats in these boxes. What does it mean? Well, firstly, for most boomers, the sight of a lawn that's untrimmed is blasphemous. So imagine having 10 or 20 of these weird wooden boxes around. Not only that, but they poop a lot and it smells pretty bad. Think of pigeons except way more smelly, as well as the fact that they can carry rabies, so extra points for the boomer fear factor. Now, terrorizing these boomers is fun and all, but what can you get out of it? Well, because they're protected, it's a federal crime to take these bat boxes down, but because they are there, they are actively devaluing the area's home values by at least a few 100,000, if not millions. So what can the boomers do about it? Nothing. Unless they're willing to purchase the home you bought for a 200% markup, that is. At which point they can illegally remove these boxes without anyone around to care enough. Now, is scamming boomers out of hundreds of thousands of dollars ethical? No, but them also propping up home prices to ridiculous levels just so they can cash out in the end is also unethical, so really it's fair game. Bonus points if you want to install a ham radio tower, which are 40 feet tall radio towers that most definitely will be seen from anywhere in the neighbourhood. They're protected by the FCC and can carry a $300,000 fine to anyone who impedes on a homeowner's right to install a radio tower, so the law is on your side. If you're going to go through with this though, I'd recommend floodlights and a lot of cameras just to make sure that any attempts at sabotage are documented and reported to the correct authorities. Now, the boomers might try and say that this is extortion or whatnot, but really it's just the good old capitalism that I love. Finally, for the real eco-terrorists, and I'm talking about the people who actually use weapons and bombs and stuff, things that we do not condone at all on this channel. There was a few times that eco-terrorists did take action, but it was for the most stupid reasons ever. Chaim Nissim, born in Jerusalem, attacked the Super Phoenix nuclear plant with 5 RPG rounds in 1982 because he thought that the nuclear reactor would explode because he didn't understand nuclear energy. Ah yes, let me stop the nuclear reactor exploding by, firing explosives at it. Here's a quote of his about the attack. I've never in my life heard of anyone try to justify rocket attacks as non-violent, but here we are. It gets better because 3 years after the rocket attacks, he was appointed a member of the Grand Council of Geneva under the Green Party. This guy is a terrorist, but I don't think he was ever charged. I tried to look it up, but there's almost nothing about him online. He's basically a ghost. There's only articles about another man by the same name being a kitty toucher, so yeah. Anyways, that's all we have for the video. If you guys do not like and subscribe, I will be installing bat boxes under your homes, under the foundations. So you know what to do. But other than that, thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the next video.